Our guest Diane brings in so much education around toxins and beauty, implant illness, and how these so common devices can actually disrupt our body's natural symphony. We dive so much deeper than just non toxic cosmetics. And Diane just gives us so many tangible things that you can do right now. And I have so many notes from today that I'm so excited for you to hear.
It's true. We even touch on toxic fish full of PFAS or forever chemicals that we're consuming. We talk about some of these staggering statistics, even menstrual products that could be exposing women to these toxins, and some solutions behind all of this. So stay tuned. It's a great one. I think you'll really enjoy it. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome to the Vibrant Wellness Podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Emmy Brown, here with my brilliant co-host, Melissa Gentile. Today we have an incredible guest, Diane Kazer, with us. As a traditional naturopath, diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and certified detox specialist, among many other things, Diane is fiercely committed to helping others achieve their ultimate health goals. From professional soccer player to holistic health crusader, she has navigated through her own health battles with grace and determination, emerging as a leading voice in detoxification, gut health, and the fight against breast implant illness. She is author of Killer Breasts, a comprehensive guide to navigating the world of breast implant illness, creator of the Explant solution, and it doesn't end there. Diane is also the producer of the Non-Toxic Beauty Summit and the Iconics 10-part Dying to Be Beautiful docuseries. So let's jump in and talk toxic beauty and what we can do about it with Diane. Welcome, Diane. It's so great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Diane. I'm so excited for today's conversation.
And before we get into it, I read on your site, Diane, that you've done a lot of solo traveling. Bali and Thailand were a couple of your favorite places. And I would just love to know, was there a moment that you can speak to that made you really decide to jump on that plane and start to travel solo and have those adventures? Because I'm a huge travel lover myself. So I'd love to know a little bit about that.
Oh, I love the start of this show, Emmy. Thank you. And I think it actually pertains to what we're going to dive into as well, as clinicians, practitioners, or patients who are listening. I think the greatest way to get out of the prison that we are in as it pertains to symptoms, sickness, suffering, or feeling stuck in our life in any way is one word: curiosity. And curiosity says, and anytime you start with wonder, you're Wonder Woman or you're Wonder Man. And there's a whole world of wonder that's outside of the box that we've been programmed to live in. And for me, I hit my proverbial wall when I was a yoga teacher and a Reiki expert and a nutritionist and a bikini competitor. And I was helping people cleanse. This is back in 2011, 12. I lived in LA. And I just thought there's got to be more to life than this, because LA felt so Hollywood and fake to me. And people felt like they had an agenda. And then I went, I'm kind of done with this. I'm going to put everything in storage and just travel and just see what else is out there. I was just so curious about what else is out there. And I think as a clinician, even to wonder what else is out there for treatments or what also could be causing someone's illness or disease that maybe the previous doctor or practitioner couldn't help them with. That curiosity is that spark that helps people go deeper, and it helped me go deeper into my soul. I also said, you know what I want to do? I want to travel, and I also want to break free from the fears that I've been programmed to feel. And so I went scuba diving. I dove with bull sharks. I traveled alone to 4 different countries by myself, which is in and of itself pretty scary. And people even told me, you're going to die. You're going to die if you do that. And I went, or am I going to fly? And so I went to all kinds of places that people told me that I would literally probably die, especially India. So whenever I went to a new place, a new temple, I just went, people have told me that this religion was terrible because they believed in this God. And I went, I'm leaning into curiosity rather than believing what you're telling me. And I went to these temples and they just welcomed me with open arms. And they just said, come on in here. And I was this solo white blonde girl. And they're like, come on into our temple and pray with us. And I was like, wow, how amazing. But I've been programmed to think they were terrible beheading humans. So travel is really something I missed during COVID. How about you, Emmy?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I did quite a bit actually. So I got around to it, but I got to know, Did you set out on those trips to learn about traditional healing at all? Because it sounds like, I mean, curiosity, that's a huge, topic, but you're
Yeah.
saying in terms of wellness. So did you learn
Yeah.
about any kind of traditional healing methods on that trip?
I did. And I'm glad you asked that too, because it's one of the reasons that I took off is that I felt like I wasn't getting a proper education in America. I wouldn't say, I would say more of a diverse education. So when I got to India, that was the first place that I was brought into learning Ayurvedic techniques and detoxification and drainage approaches. I actually, air quotes, had to take some pokes to travel, if you know what I mean. I know there's certain words that we can't say, but I had to take those, had to, in order to travel. And I ended up getting very sick when I got to India, and I was down for 2 or 3 weeks with terrible, terrible runs, if you know what I mean. And I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. So I worked with and under the care of and interned with an Ayurvedic doctor for 3 weeks. And that ended up just being part of the journey that I didn't really plan for. But I did plan on doing some Ayurvedic studies when I was there, but it was amazing. And then also Thai and learning herbology when I was there. And it was just the whole trip ended up being a huge learning experience.
Very cool. And I know we're going to talk about toxic beauty overall, but I want to transition now because we haven't talked much about breast implant illness on this podcast. And as the author of Killer Breasts, I really would love to just start there and understand what is breast implant illness? What are the range of symptoms? What are some lesser known symptoms? Kind of just overall, what are your thoughts and your work involving breast implant illness
Mm,
at this time?
goodness. The number one thing I would say about what breast implants do is they prevent your body from being able to take the trash out. They block your lymphatic glands. They block your major lymph drainage organs from being able to take waste out or infections out, pathogens that are going to get backed up in those areas so that they end up causing swelling. So that in and of itself is like a physical manifestation of symptoms, right? And that's me trying to simplify what it is so that people can understand that anybody who has an implant at this point, because we're now even in where the research that we've been doing, my friend who runs GPAC, Robin Tout, she's been doing this research as well, that it's not just breast implant, it's any implant illness. So that's why I wanted to start with this, because even if you have a dental implant, which I do, it can block these drainage pathways in that one specific root and the organ that correlates with it. If you're looking at biological dentistry, you can see that every root connects with certain organs of the body. So if you have other implants as well, like mesh too, these things will cause the body to stagnation. So though, like I mentioned, literally at that point, you don't have waste pickup every week that we do in America anyway. So imagine what starts to happen in your body if you can't take the trash out to the dumpster, and what starts to back up. Bugs back when there's more toxins present, pathogens have to show up to clean up the mess. So that is it by itself. And then in addition to that, breast implants specifically have 30 plus toxins that they're comprised of. And even silicone is saline. So saline is the saline implant, the breast implant, it's surrounded by a shell of silicone. And so people will say, well, I don't have silicone, so I'm fine. I've heard all kinds of, humans are meaning making machines and excuse making machines. And we say, well, because this, I then this. We make our own formulas. Doesn't always work. It doesn't always calculate in science, which is why I want to celebrate this, because it's a huge healing opportunity for people who haven't dove into it, right?
Mhm.
There's also people who are having things installed in their disc spaces that are very similar to breast implants too. So just want to cover that first and foremost. Breast implants are made of heavy metals, silicone, saline, and they also have a lot of these, like even ink, the things that they use to make ink out of, polymers. And when they do, and I say when, it's not if, it's when when the implants start to either erode, in a sense they leak or they rupture, or they end up starting to release toxins that flow out throughout the person's body. And then this waste backs up into organs, into their lymph. And that's when we start to have a problem. And these problems surface as, first and foremost, a diagnosed or undiagnosed autoimmune disease. We know it takes like 10 to 18 years to get a proper diagnosis in America because they're not looking at the early onset symptoms where we're going, Houston, we might have a problem. Not Houston, we have a problem, but Houston, the train is about to fall off the tracks. I could look at a woman and say, if you have breast implants, it's not if, it's when. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of this news, but it's when the train falls off the tracks. So a lot of skin issues as far as symptoms, not just diagnoses, because women come to me and they come to women like myself or anybody who's helping people, air quotes, treat breast implant illness. The true treatment is to get them out of the body, because your body can then start flowing toxins out. The toxins aren't getting backed up. The body is not trying to literally say 24/7, I have to push this out because it's not self. That is the definition of an autoimmune disease. If you want an autoimmune disease, get breast implants. And then whether you're diagnosed with, stage whatever of adrenal fatigue or Hashimoto's or MS or lupus, we've seen a lot of these things. People go, oh, it must just be genetic because my mom also had blank. It's not genetic, it's epigenetic. It's the toxins that trigger the genes to either the good ones turn off or the bad ones turn on. Then we have this inflammatory cascade. Women's hair is falling out, their hormones are going crazy. They have a 3 times higher risk of suicide and depression of women who don't have breast implants. Women who have, and also a 3 times issue of fertility. They have infertility 3 times higher. And then we also have a lot of issues with our skin. I could show you pictures, and which is in my book, Killer Breasts, on the wall on that side, but you can't see it. All kinds of skin issues I had. It looked like pimples. It looked kind of like cystic acne, but it wasn't. It was under my armpits. And this is very common too. So when I say I'm translating to our. So on the chest, anywhere where there's lymphatic stagnation. So you think about that. Our breast right here next to our armpits, right here next to our neck. And this is where we're having a lot of these bumps. So women will get eczema. They'll have a lot of parasitic infections, ear ringing. They just feel like they can't get out of bed. They're exhausted. They're depressed, brain fog, complete lethargy. I mean, I could go on and on. It's a woman's worst nightmare, but we think it's a woman's greatest dream when we get them installed.
So it sounds like the symptoms are literally like full body. Like it's not really just kind of like, here's your list of symptoms, like, watch out for these things. It sounds like it could literally be everything from head to toe. So does that make it really kind of challenging to pinpoint like what exactly is going on, since the range of symptoms is so wide?
It's a great question, Melissa, because I even went down that path when I was really attached to having my breast implants. And I think also misinformed from a clinical perspective too, because I was a clinician when I had breast implants and I started having major problems. I said, my breasts feel and look fine. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with my breast implants, right? And that's also what a lot of doctors, even Eastern practicing doctors, will say is, well, everything looks fine. They'll also smash it down with a mammo and they'll say, oh, everything looks fine. But that's actually how they rupture in many cases. So I tell women, if you have breast implants, you're not properly warned about the danger of mammography, not just from a radiation perspective, because it's like 10 times the amount of an x-ray, but getting those things physically, they're getting smashed, especially if women have had them greater than 10 years. You're supposed to get them replaced every 10 years. But a lot of women have them for 30 plus years, and they get diagnosed with lupus. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. I've had a woman die of literally breast implant illness and lupus. After they did a mammo, the implant materials spread all throughout her body after having them for 35 years. And she died 2 months after. So these are things that are really tricky to find, because we're taught that if it feels painful here, it must be right beneath that or behind that is causing the issues. But it's systemic. I mean, it's 11 systems of the body and they are all connected. So it could absolutely be other areas of the body that break down, like body pain, joint inflammation. After I had my breast implants removed, I ruptured my Achilles tendon like 6 weeks after. When the body is trying to clear toxic waste and debris, pathogens that have been there for, in my case, it was 10 years I had my breast implants. It could be like a flood of the body trying to clear them, and it could impact the body, where this is why I recommend working with a practitioner before and after explant as well. Because when you get the breast implants out, there's a huge swing of the body going, now finally I can release the toxins that were backed up in this one area of the body. If you get back up in this one area of the body in your breasts and your chest area, then other areas have to compensate for it. So of course, it's all parts of the body. And your lymphatic system is your body's first line of defense for your immunity. And there's over 500 nodes everywhere. And they just so happen to be right next to your hormone factories, your thyroid, your adrenals, your ovaries. And no wonder why we're getting cancers in all these areas. So some people would say, oh, breast cancer, just replace them, take the memories out and replace them with breast implants. But then we're replacing one problem with a huge, major, more significant issue. And other people get cancers in other areas when we've been seeing this now in studies after they get breast implants installed. That's, I think, a huge crime in breast cancer, air quotes, treatments, is to put those autoimmune causing, other cancer causing implants in the body.
And just to drive home this point, Diane, Harvard Health Publishing reports breast implant illness as a collection of symptoms, including fatigue, anxiety, depression, chest pain, hair loss, that some women believe are linked to their implants. And they go on to say that it's unclear if it's the implants themselves or something else. But it sounds like you have seen in your experience that it is both. It's the implants and then this backing up of toxicity as a sequelae or result of the implants. Is that summing it up correctly in terms of the breast implant itself causing an issue and then a complication in terms of toxicity and detoxification issues?
Yeah. And actually what we found too in the research is that silicone is inert. And what inert means is that the body cannot simply detox it on its own. It requires, just like the lymph, it requires our own manual pumping. And plastics can take up to 1,000, if not more, years to clear from the body. And, thankfully, Vibrant, and I love your labs. My God, they've changed my life, my practice, and my patients' results. Seeing that the forever chemicals that live inside of the body on the testing that we do, patients need to see that in order to take it seriously to reduce it in their environment, right? And so like the PFAS, so we've got tens of thousands of these things everywhere. Same thing. They're inert. We don't even know how to get them really out of the body at this point. We're still doing research. That's where we're at too with breast implants. Is every single breast implant manufacturer is in violation of their pre-market approvals, which is to say they didn't do the research to test for the efficacy or the safety long-term for putting these in people's bodies. And so if we can see that this is how they've done this with one thing, you can imagine and ask the question and get curious about what other things have they not done proper research on before they just started putting them into people's bodies. There's a really good documentary that I recommend people listen to if they really want to be awakened to this truth. And it's called The Bleeding Edge. Have you guys seen that, or have you gals seen that?
No, but I'm gonna write it down right now. It sounds like it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, The Bleeding Edge. And it talks about meshes, which we've had major issues with, vaginal mesh in women, and even herniated mesh. Mesh is also made of the same kind of materials that we're testing for, like the forever chemicals and the plastics. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are being put into our bodies that haven't really done proper research before they're put in.
So Diane, I'm kind of going after that. One of my questions that I wanted to ask you was, what are some of the immediate improvements when patients go through the explant process? But after this explanation, it sounds like, well, that's just step one. It's like you're kind of opening a can of worms when that happens. It's like now you're just stepping into the deep healing work. So I could imagine that maybe they might even feel worse right after, kind of how you were saying with your injury. So what are some of those tangible things that you do for patients? They go through an explant process, or maybe somebody that has other things placed in their body, maybe with other toxins. What tangible things do you take them through? Is it supplements? Is it diet? Is it, lymphatic drainage practices? Like, what are some things where, like, let's just start here to try and get the body kind of on the right path?
Thank you, Melissa, for asking that question. That's a really important question. And it's my mark in the world right now. And to doctors, clinicians, I did a speech for Eco Cellcore, which is the supplement line that I love and use and pairs very nicely with Vibrant Labs. In fact, I have a ministry where I coach clinicians, practitioners, doctors on this very process so that they can learn to use Vibrant Labs and how to use the right modalities and models on how to approach and prepare these patients or clients for a surgery. I mean, I'm talking about any surgery, because all surgeries at this point are using toxins themselves, and a lot of people feel unwell after a surgery. So even the breast implants alone removed from the equation, we have all of the anesthesia, and then also most hospitals these days are using fentanyl as a pain modulator, and then the antibiotics, which is killing the small amount of bacteria that we have left, thanks to glyphosate and all kinds of other herbicides and pesticides that are serving to kill the population of healthy microbes that we have in our gut that make us healthy and determine our metabolism and our mindset and our ability to clear toxins and address pathogens. So I would say, zooming up beyond breast implants, yes, there's the surgery and there's the preparation, and of all things, to have something put in or taken out. So I'll give you an example, Melissa. I have one current client. She, beautiful soul, and she heard me on a podcast like this, and she said, wow, this sounds a lot like what I've been going through. Many doctors who've told me I was fine. My blood tests were perfectly normal, except for a little bit of low vitamin D. Or maybe there is a bug, an Eastern medicine type doctor, a naturopath or a homeopath says, you've got H. pylori, let's kill it with some antimicrobials or antibiotics. I had one patient who had breast implants. She was on antibiotics straight every day for 267 days. And she was also diagnosed with Lyme. And you know what I say to that is, I talk about this in my book, Killer Breast too, is that a lot of women who have breast implants are falsely diagnosed with Lyme. And it's not oftentimes or always Lyme. It's actually a misdiagnosis or a false positive. So then they get treated for Lyme when the ticking time bomb, as I call it, is still living inside of the body, which are these breast implants. So a lot of people have tried a lot of these things, and they've kind of gotten beaten up with solutions that are not the deepest wound, the deepest weed, which is these breast implants or other things, and how their body responds to it. Because genetics can actually determine whether or not they are going to properly cleanse from these things. A lot of women have mold that are surrounding the capsules too, because that capsule contains a lot of pathogens and toxic waste that antibiotics or anything that the patient might be prescribed can't get to it, because it's protected in between the breast implant and that capsule. And that's why we recommend having both removed. A lot of women will go get breast implants replaced, and that capsule still exists in the body, which is just a culmination of a lot of toxic, microbials, pathogens, waste, mold. So then they get sicker when they have their breast implants replaced, but that capsule still remains in, right? And if someone has, HLA-DQ, we have a lot of literature on this for genetics, that if they have the HLA-DQ single nucleopolymorphism, then that person is not as going to be as healthy or equipped to clear mold as well. So they're more susceptible with mold symptoms, and then they are not able to clear it as well. So we see that as well. So all of those things considered, Melissa, I do a full health history. I recommend every clinician out there and every patient who's working with a clinician having asked that question. Has your mother had breast implants? Has your mother had mercury fillings? Because she's dumping that into you when she's, when she's carrying you. And breast implants now is becoming second generational, where we're seeing a lot of people now who have been born to mothers who have had breast implants. So those things could have also been pre-susceptible to somebody reacting to them. And so all of those questions prior to surgery, I get women prepared for surgery for at least 3 months. A lot of women are being told, all you have to do is remove your breast implants, to your point, Melissa. That's all you have to do. And this is the PSYOP out there right now. That's it. Women do feel better after they get their breast implants out. Yes. However, I'm warning to that now, because there's a lot of other things that are creating this cascade of excess toxicity in the body that when you get the breast implants out, now it's just moving toxins around if they're not equipped. So I'm optimizing their drainage pathways. I'm making sure that they have healthy mitochondria levels. And above and beyond all of this clinical stuff, getting connected to nature. We get so much of our mitochondria support, our energy from the sun. So getting out in nature, getting back to nature, eating healthy foods, getting away from processed foods, stop eating the polyunsaturated fats, just cleaning that stuff up. Yes. And then I also run a vibrant panel on them where we're looking at metals and looking at the mold mycotoxins, as well as the environmental toxins, and then organic acids. I start my patients there. And then I say, give me 3 months. Give me 3 months of getting your body ready for this so that when you do go in for the surgery, your mitochondria is optimized, your drainage pathways are open, you're eating healthy food. I had one patient, she went in and she felt so good. She was ready. Then she had her breast implants taken out. And then it sent her down a spiral where she hasn't been feeling well for 3 to 6 months. So without a clinician to support her through all of that, I would be a little fearful for her because she had to learn how to move her lymph. Many people don't even know what that is. So it does take some prep work. I say 3 months before, 3 months after, just learn how to do these things prior to. It doesn't have to be rocket science.
What's your favorite way to move lymph? I think about rebounding, but not everyone needs to buy a mini trampoline, which is what a rebounder is for those who don't know.
I know. Although it's so fun, we get back to it. That's another part of what you might notice. I'm not the average clinician. I like to be fun and playful. It doesn't mean that I'm not professional. It just means that I like to channel our inner child. Like if we're not having fun, what's the point of even being here? If we're not out playing or laughing is a great lymphatic stagnation decongester. Talk about using your abs and like moving these things. So laughter is great medicine. My friend Kelly Kennedy, who is somebody who really focuses a lot on the lymph, she would agree. We always have fun in her shows, and she's the lymph goddess. I learned a lot from her. So yes, rebounding, Emmy. Yes, please do some rebounding and trampolining. I put one of my clients on my vibrating plate. That's another really great way of moving your lymph. I have a lot of people who can't move. Like they're exhausted. They just had surgery. They're super overweight. They can't exercise. So vibrating plate is awesome. You can get them for like $100. I have one here at my house, and I have a VIP group where I teach people these lifestyle modalities every week for a couple hours. We get together, and you can get one of these vibrating plates for not too expensive. Put it in your house and put your feet on it while you're watching TV, sedentary, getting your body moving.
Right.
So, but I put one of my friends on it, and she got really sick for 2 weeks after. So if somebody's sick for 2 weeks after just simply using a vibrating plate, what does that tell us? That tells us that when you're moving your lymph and you get sick after, it's shaking up a lot of these pathogens and toxins that were stored deeply into the tissues that could later turn into more significant severe autoimmune disease or cancers. And someone might say, oh, well, she probably just caught something. I mean, and that could be the case too, but she did nothing else but use that. And then that day, that minute, that hour, right after she got off of it, she started feeling very sick. That's why we say your lymph is your number one first line of defense for your immune system. So doing things like this, I love doing that. I mean, I love my vibrating plate. I feel a significant difference. And then the sauna, there's so many clinical studies, and I can give you guys an image of this later to show the statistics of heart disease and cholesterol, diabetes, inflammation, infections, suicide, brain-related inflammatory diseases, dementia that have gone down when someone is focusing on using a sauna 3 to 5 days a week. And we can say, sure, there's dry brushing. Yeah, that can help a little bit with lymph. But we've been finding that it's actually nowhere near as effective as using things like on the face. There's all kinds of gua sha techniques that can move lymph in the face and can really improve your face appearance to look more youthful and also to kind of uplift the cheekbones. But yet that's another topic that people are filling their faces with a lot of Botox, which is the number one most toxic substance known to man. They use in the Gulf War to paralyze the troops. I don't know how we ended up getting it in our beauty routines. And fillers, which are considered medical devices that actually do not leave the body. They slowly over time dissolve, but they're toxins in and of themselves. So this is what I'd recommend. moving your lymph could actually be the number one fastest glow of anti-aging. And then, of course, using things like castor oil packs. My friend Dr. Marisol has an amazing one for the Queen of Thrones. You could use castor oil packs around your neck, around your ovaries, around your liver, on injuries where you've had surgery. Like I used mine on my Achilles tendon rupture surgery afterwards to heal my scarring. You could use a patch around that. So those are just some of the ones I like the most for lymphatic drainage. And then herbs as well, like Lymph Active with Cellcore.
That's a great list. And I have to squeeze this in really quickly because you mentioned gua sha. What about microcurrent devices for the face?
Yes. Yes. I love microcurrent. My partner, we started our non-toxic beauty school, nontoxicbeautyschool.com. And we did a little, she videoed us doing the microcurrent, and wow. I mean, have you done some of those, Emmy, like a series of treatments too?
Well, they use them, estheticians use them, but there are some at-home devices. So I've been
Yeah.
using a Zip device, which I just love. And it was designed by an esthetician who has a very large following. And there's others on the market, but I just think it's fascinating that we can use this microcurrent to stimulate lymph, to stimulate the muscles, and it feels good. It's relaxing. It's not just about aesthetics. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't thinking about that before until you just brought up gua sha, but I'm so glad that you did.
Yeah. I would say it's not fascinating. It's fascinating. Get it? Fascia? Because that's
Exactly.
I
no,
thought it was interesting that you kind of said that that's probably more effective than dry brushing, because I think most people think, oh, well, I'm dry brushing my entire body. This is, helping my entire lymph system. But it sounds
and
like
it
the gua
does.
sha is more effective.
I mean, it does. It does. I'm not saying it does not. It's effective, but you get more bang for your buck when you're doing other things. So, I mean, even 5-6 years ago, before I learned more about how to go deeper with your fascia, and your lymph, I was teaching the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with it, and it's not to shame anybody. But I also, I'm a personal trainer as well. I haven't done that for years, but that's the kind of like other things you were talking about earlier, Emma, in my bio. When I was a bikini competitor, I was also a personal trainer and a yoga teacher. So yoga and foam rolling are
I was
very
just going to
powerful.
ask, yoga, with your background in yoga, like, is that another way to support the lymph system as well?
Huge, Melissa. So 70% of our detoxification pathway happens through our exhalation. I mean, whoa. So, but yoga is
Just
illegal
through
in
our
schools.
breath.
Just through our breath. So,
Wow.
but we were all masked up for a while, and then that's why people were also getting so sick and getting acne, because they couldn't expel their toxic waste and bacteria. So then they were just breathing it back in. So this is really important. Yoga isn't just stretching and, moving and talking about asanas and pujas. It's learning how to breathe our way through stress. And at this point, 90% of people are living in fight or flight all the time. If you look at the work of Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, they're talking about this. So it's really about our existence is our chi. That's why my institute, my ministry is called Chi, Cleanse, Heal, Ignite. But also Xi, Chi, is the life force energy that's flowing through us, as spoken through Chinese medicine. And I've loved researching Chinese medicine as well. Acupuncture is another way to open up your lymph. So if you're addressing the fascia, you're also working with the lymph. But our breath is a free way that we can all take better charge of our circulation, our body, and getting waste out of the body. I can go on and on about it, but Wim Hof talks about this too. I mean, these are all great resources that you guys can look
Love
up on
Wim
your
Hof.
own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Red
That's
light therapy,
incredible.
another good one. I mean,
Yeah.
so many good things that you could do for your lymph. It's endless. But when you do something for your lymph, you're doing it for your whole body. This is why we don't just test blood. Blood is 25% of your body. Your lymph is 75%. So we're looking deeper with Vibrant at all of these different areas that we're testing beyond just blood. And that's really all that Western medicine looks at these days, is let's look at your blood, your blood, your blood, your blood. And I'm going, can we look deeper beyond just the vampire conversation of just blood? We have so many more things to look at and heal.
And
It's
on
like,
that,
how many times have you heard, like, oh, your blood work looks okay?
a lot of hidden information. And on the note of being more comprehensive with testing, I would love to know, and we can't put anybody in a box, of course, but Diane, have you
Right.
noticed any patterns of lab results with the breast implant illness or just implant illness clients versus folks who do not have implants? Are there any patterns you're noticing on labs?
Yeah, yeah, and that is a tricky one. So thanks for speaking into that before, Emmy. It's this is what makes it so difficult for the FDA to actually honor the work that millions of women who've been suffering silently all around the world have a culmination of a constellation of the same symptoms that we coin as breast implant illness and now implant illness. But inflammatory markers are conventionally high. We've got high homocysteine. And if inflammation is high, toxicity and pathogenic load is high, and therefore micronutrients are low. And so that is the deductive reasoning that I've seen, when we're looking at a lot of these lab tests. There does tend to be a lot higher levels of H. pylori, I've noticed too. H. pylori is a bug that, if we're looking at germ theory versus terrain theory, and this is also the work that I like to challenge people just to get curious about, not saying that any of us know anything 100%. We're all here. If we're good clinicians, we're curious.
Yes.
We're asking deeper questions. We're never professing to know. That's why it's called a practice. It's not called a perfect, although we're taught to practice that way a lot these days, is that I know everything. No, we're always asking better questions for better answers and better healing modalities. So H. pylori is a bug, it's a bacteria that I still to this day just got off a call with a client before I even hopped on today with you gals. And she said, I work with a previous homeopath that was killing my H. pylori, and we air quotes, cured the H. pylori with antimicrobials. And I go, well, hold on a minute. The H. pylori is there because of the pH and the acidity and the entire biome of the body. If we're just going to kill a bug, then it can come back if it's in the same environment that created it. So I don't believe we just catch things. I believe that we create things from the inside from the terrain theory. So I do see, because of the disruption and acidity levels of a woman that has breast implants, tend to be a lot more, they create more of a pathogenic presence for things like H. pylori. Then when you have H. pylori, then women start to, and I do see this often with breast implants, then the waste starts to back up and build up and they end up getting acid reflux. I do see a lot of major micronutrient deficiencies. I do run HTMA on occasion, where I do see a lot of high levels of metals and low levels of the healthy minerals that won't be able to get into the cell because the minerals are blocking that. So there's that one-way street where if metals are occupying the cells, then the minerals can't get in because they're more dense and more dominant. So I do see a lot more heavy metal toxicity because breast implants in and of themselves are made of heavy metals. So, and then circulatory issues, women who can't really clear that well, they have there tends to be a lot more clotting as well. And then that also will prevent them from having surgery. So that's another thing I would say is a lot of women want to have surgery. They're so excited and they have a date. I have one client that this is happening with right now. Her scheduled surgery needs to get pushed out because she's got some clotting factors that are happening. Because the blood gets thicker when it's more filled with waste, and waste can't leave. So those are some of the classic ones that I tend to see.
So Diane, I do want to dive into a little bit more of the crucial role of detoxification. I know we did kind of touch on briefly just the massive list of things that you can do to help support the lymphatic system, but I do want to know, are there any other emerging techniques or just kind of tips that you have for detoxification as a whole that we didn't already mention that maybe you don't hear other practitioners speaking about often?
Yeah. So in addition to the lymph, and breath, those are two of the most underrated, not super complex ways to address drainage and detoxification. I often see a lot of clinicians, which is why I have my own little ministry where I teach people, get them certified, and they can run Vibram panels. Because I want them to know this stuff is that it's like 70 to 80% of energy our body actually uses toward digestion and detoxification. That's a lot of energy it takes to simply take the food that we're consuming and turn it into energy. If it is food, first and foremost. So eat real food. We'll start there. A lot of people aren't doing that. But then they're seeing clients or they're working with their doctors and they're taking all these pills, but they're not really diving super deep into food and really working with their clients to make sure that they are, logging healthy food. We first need to get that in the body. I teach fast food diet. I teach people to eat fast food, but it stands for ferments and adaptogens or antioxidants or both, superfoods and toxin binders. So everybody's always about just selling a lot of supplements, take the supplements. And then people come to you and they're on 15, 20 supplements. And you're like, wow, this is not sustainable. This could actually get clogged in your body if you're not breaking them down well or absorbing or assimilating or clearing. So it's not about just what you eat or what you supplement. It's about what your body does with it. So ensuring that the body starts with mitochondria, making sure that you have enough healthy mitochondria, ATP production. Again, the sun, nature gives us, we're solar panels. Humans are solar panels that we're charged by the sun. So get out in the sun, and we can say this all day long, but it's free. So start there. Make sure the person has enough of that, and live in as close harmony to Mother Nature as possible, and God, and pray, or whatever that it looks like for you, right? Have a purpose, have a goal, be committed to also, this is going to work. I'm going to work for this, and this is going to work for me. So it's a belief system as well. You can't just take supplements and diet. I mean, this might also sound like, oh yeah, we know those things, but people are not doing those things. I see clients all day long that are still in this, it's not going to work because the thing didn't before. Have a belief that God made you perfectly and whole and nothing about you is broken. It just might be the system that we've been under that has been broken. And so you're learning and you're unlearning and relearning to take care of the temple that God lives within you. So eat real food has been designed for your consumption. So those are some of the key components. And then also it can get more clinical and scientific, which would be, I use BCATP with Cellcore. It makes a huge difference. People get charged and activated by that in addition to the sun. And then sleeping, 10 to 6.
Huge.
That's a big deal, but people still are making it a big deal, right? Like most people are unslept and unkept these days. So, I mean, those are the foundations. And then also in addition, then supplement BCATP, infrared technology, those things. And then also I need to speak to this too. We've been talking about what to do, but there's also what to undo. So, there's binders. I say eat your toxin binders, and that would be things like chlorella and spirulina and cilantro. You can eat those things in your diet, but those are going to clean up the blood. It's going to bind to toxins in the blood if it's food based. Like I said, those 3 things and more, CMOS, etc. But those are food based. They're not super dense. That's where you bring in the big guns and things like the humic acid, the fulvic acid. The humic acid is one of the we've seen it in studies based on in 2012. There was a study that showed that humic acid is one of the most powerful chelators to graphene oxide. And graphene oxide at this point is the known toxin that is in virtually all injectables at this point. They've been looking at these things under a microscope and seeing that even in dental anesthetics, I myself have been harmed by this. And so I'm not just saying it's breast implants. I'm saying that it was Botox as well, dental anesthetics as well. Look this up, you guys. And we're seeing that. So humic acid is a powerful binder, much more dense than the plant-based binders, which is why the toxin binder T in my little fast food acronym, I say eat those things, but then supplement with more dense things like humic acid, which is in virtually every one of the supplements that Cellcore CT technology is. That's why I love Cellcore, because I've been seeing massive differences with those binders. They're more dense, more so than activated charcoal, which can tend to bind to minerals and excrete them. The humic acid is a mineral contributor as well as a metal and other toxin chelator. So very, very strong. And then going back to what to undo. So I just talked about many of those things that have the toxins that we keep adding to the body. There's less of a success rate. I wouldn't say there's no point, but there's less of a success rate with doing cleansing and detoxifying when you're living in the environment that also has the toxins, or you're having things poked into you, or taking eating anything that has these things in them that you're becoming a part of by breathing, ingesting, or slathering on your body. So this is why I say it's not just what to do, it's about what to undo. Something that stagnates the lymphatics is dairy. So if you're eating a lot of dairy, or people say the keto diet's the greatest thing in the world, I'm like, well, not for a stagnant lymphatic system, maybe not for a woman who has breast implants. So this is where we get back to everybody is bio-individual. And I think at this point where we are in the game with so many toxins, ABC, always be cleansing, and have a practitioner who knows a good lab company, Vibrant, that is offering lab testing to go deeper so that you can find some deeper rooted answers that patient was not able to identify before, and do a thorough health history, asking them, when did they have their, some kind of dental treatments? Do they have cavitations? Have they had a cone beam? Do they have root canals? Do they have silver fillings? Have they ever had them? And did they do a proper detox after? Or maybe they do still have mercury or aluminum, because silver fillings are half mercury, half aluminum. Can we see that in a lab test? So people think they get these things out like silver fillings and then they're fine. But if they didn't do a deep dive detox, they still might have mercury and aluminum traveling throughout the body. So we need to bring back binders like the ones that I like from Cellcore that are super transformational. And then, of course, making sure that they're not adding them back in, and eating wild caught fish as much as possible, not necessarily farm raised, although where is there not a heavy metal at this point? We're just making better choices is my point.
Yep. I'm always saying you got to choose your battles and take a really holistic approach, which it's very clear you're doing. And I want to talk a little bit more about PFAS while we're on the topic of testing. And that stands for perfluorinated and polyfluorinated alkyl substances, for those who don't know. And we like to stay up to date and bring in the latest news on this podcast. So yesterday, Katie Couric Media reported a March 2023 study found that fish caught in rivers and lakes across the United States contained an alarming level of forever chemicals, those PFAS. And these creatures were so contaminated that eating just one of these fish would be like drinking a month's worth of polluted water, the researchers said.
It's shocking.
I mean, please send that to me.
I will send you the study, yes.
Oh. So okay, so this is only staggering. America, you said, right? It's just America?
This was a United States study, yes. Rivers and lakes across the United States.
Wow. And our lakes are the lymphatic system of our Mother Nature's skin. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that this kind of study wouldn't come out. My thought when all these big toxic spills were just dumping our waste into the water streams. And I recommend drinking distilled water and then adding minerals back and getting most of your minerals from our plants, which is where we're supposed to get them. But this is the equivalent. Who's out there cleaning our rivers and streams?
It's fish? Crazy. Yeah. And that,
or the fish,
apparently. And I'm glad you just mentioned water, because I wanted to know, are you willing to talk about water filters? Do you have favorites? You just mentioned distilled and then adding back in minerals. Is that your go-to approach, or are there filters that you also consider?
Yes, ma'am. I love distilled. I've done so much research on this. Dr. J and Dr. Todd with Cellcore have also, and they've seen that drinking distilled is one of the only ways to get the radioactive elements out of the body. So we're talking about like the barium, the cesium, the uranium. At this point, cesium, and I'm glad we test for cesium. Thank God we're testing for cesium. I do tend to see higher levels of cesium in those individuals who've gotten the shots. And I'm meaning at this point, I don't just mean V shots. I'm talking about all shots, because they have a lot of these cesium and radioactive components, as well as the graphene oxide. So we've seen that a lot of people who have had Lyme, that they were able to get rid of their Lyme symptoms because they were drinking distilled water, got rid of the radioactive elements. Whereas things like spring water, yes, it might have more minerals, but it also has more toxins as well. Like at this point, we can't really separate them out. So we're finding that getting rid of everything, and I wouldn't say everything because there's still trace levels of it, and the using distilled versus something like a RO system, distilled still has some of the health life in it. RO does not. RO is dead water, and RO still has trace levels of contaminants that distilled can't get rid of. So distilled, and then someone who you might have a challenging case of, like someone with Lyme disease, or someone with breast implants who's been falsely diagnosed with Lyme, or who has high levels of cesium. I see this often because cesium is the thing that actually draws in more EMF and makes someone more radioactive susceptible. So that's why I recommend getting these things out of the body. I love to rotate. So here's what I do. And I work with my patients on this. Have your own distiller at home. They're only $700. A lot of people are saying, go get these systems. I'm not going to recommend names, or I'm not going to mention names, but a lot of these ionizer systems are like anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000. I don't think they're necessary. I think you can get one for $700, get a distiller, and then add minerals back, trace minerals. We now are seeing that magnesium is barely even absorbable by a pill form. Bathe in it, slather your skin with it instead of synthetic toxins that are, laced with fragrances and smells that are toxic to the body. I would recommend doing something like bathing in magnesium and trace minerals, spraying trace minerals on you because your skin is drinking the same things that you're bathing in too. So the whole topic of water is so important. We're made of 70% water, and it's important to bathe in it. I recommend patients to filter everything. I recommend that they filter, even get like a little bath ball for their bathtub, get a healthy filtration system. I mean, if they can't get a whole house, that's better for their whole house, get a whole house filtration system. But if not, then I get like something called a, what's it called? A filter baby. I think it's called a filter baby. And that's on the water that I'm brushing my teeth with, washing my face with. So those 3 filters, for bathing, showering, and then brushing your teeth with. Stop using the plastic bristles to brush your teeth as well. That's putting plastic right into your bloodstream when you're doing that. I always look at all of these things. Where's plastic lurking? Even in the loofahs. When you take a shower, you're using a loofah, and when you're cracking open your skin and you're dumping plastic in the loofah right into your bloodstream. But the bigger fish to fry are the things that are in our water systems. At this point, we're seeing all sorts of things like testosterone, birth control pills. We're seeing a lot of the other things in addition to PFAS, like you just mentioned. I see that, go to your ewg.org/skin deep, and you can see how many contaminants are in your area. So I do distilled water. I'll do that for a couple weeks. I'll bring in some spring water. Mountain Valley is the only kind I trust. And I'll drink spring water for a week. But when I'm drinking the distilled water, I'm also taking something like CT minerals, trace, and as far as orally. And then I also will spray my body with trace minerals. This is what I recommend to clients as well.
What brands of sprays or drops do you use for the trace minerals?
TEI, trace minerals.
TEI.
So
Okay.
yeah, exactly. They've got all the sprays are amazing. And then now it's got a decent brand too. Now I tested them out too. So now has a spray. It's like $10. You can get it from Full Script for clinicians. Hard to find these things that are actually in stores. So usually that's why I recommend working with a clinician. And these are things you can get through a clinician.
Just jam-packed with information so far, Diane. This is so great. And another newsworthy piece here, menstrual products. So Thinx underwear, they settled a class action lawsuit for $4 million last year after being accused of their underwear containing PFAS. So just throwing that out there for everyone and wondering if you have anything to say about menstrual products and non-toxic approaches there.
Oh my goodness, Emmy. It just never stops, does it? I mean, this is where it's so frustrating. And so I'll just say my heart goes out to everybody listening because it is frustrating. This is why I just go back to saying, let's just not, my friend Kelly Kennedy, she says, just don't wear underwear. Stop wearing underwear. Stop wearing bras. But I know when you're menstruating. Yeah. I mean, going back to how we were designed, to live with nature and to not have cotton that has been sprayed with dioxin and all sorts of other pesticides. And then we're putting that literally into the same vagina that births babies. It's just, we're so upside down. Every day we have to laugh so we don't die from these toxins.
Yes,
gotta
clearly.
go, what? Like, what in the literal hell are we doing to our bodies? And it's not our fault. We're in this. I would say here's where it is our fault. I got to back up on that. It is partially our fault. And here's where we can get empowered because we vote with our dollar.
Absolutely.
If you keep buying Tampax and all these things and giving them to your teenager and saying, here's what to plug into your vagina. And that's what she first learns when she's 13. I mean, it's sick. It's plastic. It's sick. And there was years ago, they said, for toxic shock syndrome, we're coming out with a new, V that's going to help women to get toxic shock syndrome. And I'm like, how about we just get to the root of it and stop putting these toxic things into women's vagina? Like, what? It's
one thing.
That's what I mean by Yeah, well, that's what I mean by curiosity. Not what do we do? It's about what to undo. Usually the answer is in what to undo. Stop putting these things in our temples and protect you and your babies and your teenagers. It's just sick. My perspective, and there's silicone cups, right? So that's one thing that you could use
Yes.
instead. Yeah. So the toxic tampons, I mean, there's more organic tampons. Those are the lesser of evils, but those are the two very quick transitions that someone, can make. You invest in a silicone cup. It's $30. I will say that sometimes I haven't seen it that often. Someone might say, well, Diane, but someone might have silicone antibodies because they had breast implants. Maybe they shouldn't put silicone cups in their body.
I was
Maybe,
wondering.
maybe not. Yeah. I haven't had issues with it. I haven't seen a lot of issues with it, but it is a question to ask. It doesn't live in our body. You put it in, you take it out, but
Temporary,
I'm just saying,
right.
be cautious, pay attention to that stuff. Another thing, Emmy, about PFAS, and I talked about this one day in my show as well, and I know we got to start wrapping up. I actually made the decision to get LASIK done in my eyes because, and I'm wearing glasses, but these are blue blockers. These are not vision corrected. These are blue blockers. I don't think, ladies, Melissa, Emmy, don't show up naked to wear your blue blockers. That's another thing. Because
I need to get some because I have a really bad habit of staying on my computer even up to like 11, 12 at night too.
no.
So you would not be happy to hear that.
Diane has glasses to spare.
Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I put everybody on the spot, including myself.
It's on my list. Taking notes.
Yeah, they're $10. Get them, or these are $50. But I mean, these blue screen emitting devices are also the number one drain of our mitochondria. You want to deplete your body's ability to be able to harmonize with your cells. Look at your screen all day, and we're all doing it. I mean, it's wild, but I don't leave home without these. I don't show up to a screen interview without them. I am caught looking at my phone without them sometimes, but blue blockers, synthetic, it's the synthetic light. God gave us light to charge our cells. Someone else created the synthetic light to deplete our energy. I could go on to a separate tangent, but I won't. But please wear your glasses to protect you. Beyond that, I got LASIK because of the big study that was done. Well, Mamavation did the research on this to find that contact lenses were pretty much loaded and laced with PFAS. And I didn't want to keep using contact lenses in my eyes anymore. So I got LASIK, and I'm so happy that I did. A lot of eye drops too, contact lens cleaners or things that we store them in have a lot of aluminum in them, mercury in them. So I just got LASIK, and I'm not using contact lenses anymore because I didn't want them to be living inside of me all day long.
Makes sense. Don't blame
It is
there.
wild. Just everything that you kind of explained to us today, just like sources of toxins. It's like we think of the main things like pollution and the air and water, and it's like now it's like contact lenses and just
toothbrushes. I have to know before we wrap up, what are you suggesting instead?
Yeah,
we can't let that one go.
I know. Oh yeah. Thank you, Emmy. Yeah, my friend Trina Felber has, if you go to my website, dianekazer.com/shop, or just go on my website and click on Diane's faves, I've pretty much put all of the healthy swaps, like the this, not that. Because like you said, Emmy, it's like, well, if I say what not to do, you got to give me a what to do, Diane, right? So that's the what to do. I put it all on one page. So you'll see on there, my friend Trina Felber has a dental detox kit where she has a toothbrush in there. Katie, the wellness mama, has one that she created. So they have all different kinds of solutions, alternatives, even to, the fluoride filled toothpaste, which is one thing that's really dumbing down our discernment and our intuition is fluoride, and, fluoride, aluminum, and those are the things, the glyphosate, those are the main three that contaminate our own intuition and our own ability to think for ourselves. So, I mean, there's a lot these days, but the biggest ones that are contaminating us the most are the things with the needle, are the things with like breast implants, are the meshes. So implants and needles, think about and ask what's in them. Oftentimes your doctor, your dentist doesn't know what I just talked about today. So do the research, do your homework, and know too that the graphene oxide is now at this point in virtually all injectables. So we're in this together, and we also have to be asking good questions to have better answers.
Thank you, Diane. And as we wrap up this conversation, I just want to take a moment to just reflect on everything that we covered in this entire episode. Your experience and your stories not only just like educated us, but also just inspired a deeper appreciation of the power of holistic health and the importance of being an informed advocate of our own wellness. And I think this whole episode just absolutely serves as a reminder for us to go check all of our beauty products for toxic ingredients, support our lymphatic systems, and just other detox pathways as a whole. But before we say goodbye, can you remind our listeners where they can find you and learn more about your work or possibly get involved in any of your programs?
Yeah, it's my name. So Diane Kazer down there is how you spell it. .com, and there's all sorts of things. You'll see programs where I teach parasite cleansing and having a certification through the ministry where you learn to implement all these things into your practice in a way that is not overwhelming. So, and I've got my own podcast. You can listen to me on podcasts there. I speak in a lot of media channels where I'm out in other people's shows as well, like this. And I welcome anybody who wants to reach out. support@dianekazer.com is our email address. I don't do a lot of social media anymore because I was tired of being censored. So I got real busy out doing podcasts like this. So you won't find me posting a lot on Facebook or Instagram. I'm mostly on my own podcast or other people's podcasts.
Well, we'll make sure to link your website down in the show notes for all the listeners tuning in today, just so that they can find all those resources. And again, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your message today. And to our vibrant listeners, thank you for tuning in. Your support means the world to us. And don't forget to subscribe to the Vibrant Wellness Podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep striving for vibrant health, stay curious, and remember the most important step in your journey is the next one. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here today. Don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe so we can continue to pay it forward together. And remember, the key to longevity is knowledge. Keep learning, growing, and tuning in to the Vibrant Wellness Podcast to discover the latest insights and strategies for optimal health. Join us again next week. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The views expressed by guest and host are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy of Vibrant Wellness. As always, consult your healthcare provider before applying any recommendations that you heard here today.